Welcome back to the worst publisher of 2022, our roundup series, to try to work out of all the publishers who's been the best and who's been the worst. Today in our crosshairs is Xbox, and in a stark difference with Sony, let me click in the releases button. That's it. A lot fewer games.
Yeah, if you think about publisher as a entity who is supposed to publish video games, I think when it comes to the worst by that metric, they're definitely there because they have a lot of developers and spent a lot of money and published 3 games.
They published As Dusk Falls with 78 on OpenCritic, with 67% of critics recommending interactive indie crime narrative thriller, won Games for Impact at the Game Awards. Of course, Grounded as well, the early access survival game from Obsidian, who wouldn't really be the people you'd initially think would do a game like that. And then Pentiment, which actually also comes from an Obsidian person, Josh Sawyer, where it's a really great game. Actually did have a funny thing, though, where its release onto Game Pass did coincide with a little bit of a review dip, as the broader Game Pass audience not particularly used to visual novel or adventure style games, which is kind of interesting because the likes of Yes, Your Grace apparently did pretty well over there, so who knows. But overall, yeah, 66% of Xbox first-party releases are from Obsidian, which is a bit weird, and the other one is, I suppose, what you could call a premium indie, but notably, there's really not a lot there.
Yeah, makes sense considering they're like, yeah, well, what do we go? We have to pave the way for everyone to buy Starfield. When Starfield come out? November. Actually, hang on. Maybe Starfield's not coming out in November. We should probably have had more games planned for this year. But more time, better games. Yeah, theoretically.
That's what brings us to the next category, which we can really go through these a lot faster than with Sony because they really had not had much announced, where the two big delays, of course, are Starfield and Redfall, which are both half 1 2023 now. Phil Spencer just straight up said, yep, we ship games like Infinite too early. Big L for us. We won't do it again. And we can absolutely see this in the low number of releases and also the low number of public delays. Make no mistake, many more delays have happened, we think, that are on this list. And it's all just them ensuring. I mean, even take the first-person RPG by Obsidian. Avowed. Yeah. It was quite funny that people thought, oh, wow, look at this. Microsoft have a competitor to the Elder Scrolls. And then they bought Bethesda.
Microsoft has Elder Scrolls and the only competitor to the Elder Scrolls.
But weird.
That's fine.
That is something that was announced quite bullishly a long-ass time ago. And we have not heard a single thing since.
The exact same with Playground Fable. Yeah. It's like, here's Fable. Get excited for Fable. You know that. Forget about Fable 3. Fable was very, very good. Everyone loved it. Especially when you played the Lost Chapters on PC the first time as a young person. Went, oh my god, is this what video games are going to be? And then be disappointed for the next 15 years. But fundamentally, like, that's just, where's it at? Where's all your games? And I think it's in the same vein as like some of Sony's work, where it's like, where's all of Sony's games? But they release enough that no one asks that. Because they're like, hey, we've got, like, Insomniac are just workhorses. They're doing a million things. They'll release stuff, and everyone goes, okay, sure, but at least they've got games now to, like, keep them happy. I guess they just started later, so they don't have, like, the bank of stuff to release.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's, for those two delays, that'll be fine. But I guess the thing that's not really covered by the release schedule and the delays is how much they've been actually supporting their existing audiences, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that is what's good. So we've had Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels, Age of Empires 4 and 2, Halo Infinite, Fallout 76, Flight Sim, Sea of Thieves. These are all well-received titles. Hang on. Halo Infinite, well-received at launch. Then they shit the bed. What we can say, though, is that its winter update is actually really quite good. And for that game, a lot of things are going in a better direction, but I think for a lot of people, it's a mixture of too little, too late, and they're going to need to see a hell of a lot more and to see it be consistently done over time before they're actually willing to put their time back into that franchise. But overall, when you look at things, it does seem that the games that they are publishing, maybe as long as it's not 343, are actually getting good support, and they're good games.
Yeah, and it's really hard to overstate how good the support for some of these games are. Obviously, people think of Fallout 76 and go, oh, it's the meme game that was broken, no one liked it. But I think it's the point where there's a lot of people kind of coming and going, yeah, this is fine. It's just not for everyone. It's for Fallout 76 fans, which notably is not Fallout fans, it's Fallout 76 fans. In the same way that Flight Simulator and Sea of Thieves is like, they're doing a very good job of doing almost the opposite of what Sony are doing. In a sense, Sony are going for like this is one massive shot, this is our massive game, and it'll encompass everyone who even thinks about video games will want to play this because it's so huge in the sense of like God of War and stuff being there's this epic of a game that's kind of I guess broad appeal. Their success in their updates is very much, hey, here's basically one of the best racing games in the market, if not the best. Hey, here's the only RTS on the market that's currently out and also getting updates. I know there's a lot in the pipeline from like indies and stuff like that. And there's like, well, Halo, here's Fallout. There's no competitor to Fallout, really, honestly. Just Flight Sim. There's no competitor, and any competitor would fail even attempting it.
I mean, there's like X-Plane and stuff, but
it's like on the sim level, on the ability of the developers to do stuff, because I know that developer does insane work. And then Sea of Thieves are like, where's the competition? Skull and Bones. It's not ideas, and it's not even competition. It's just
Skull and Bones.
It's something different. I don't even know how to describe it, but anyway, the point is they have these niches that they're updating regularly. It's like, sure, it doesn't really matter to us, like as a broad audience, you're paying attention to whatever, if maybe these aren't our niches, whatever else, we're looking at like the overall slate of gaming, go, oh yeah, sure, there's just some niche games, whatever. But it's like, if that's indicative of the strategy, then this is like a big tick on their like report card this year is you made games and then you didn't abandon them. You're doing better than many other developers. You're kind of doing the live service stuff right for your niches. Well done. Well played.
The combination of us knowing they have things in the pipeline that have not been publicly delayed because they haven't been publicly announced for a release date yet, that's good. That major games have been delayed is also good. Put that in the context of ongoing titles seeing pretty good support. Obviously, issues with Halo Infinite seem to be getting better now, but obviously that's the black mark, but everything else has been good. All this does weigh out pretty well. We then, of course, have got 2022 news. So, what's actually happened to this company, and that's where I think we just see a lot more happening. The obvious thing, right, the acquisition, we're not going to spend too much time on that because you all know about that, basically. This deal is supposed to close by the end of April 2023 at the turn of the new financial year.
Oh, that's kind of close.
But yes, that is actually getting close. It has, though, got a lot of scrutiny from the European Union, the United Kingdom, also now is in a legal battle with the Federal Trade Commission of the United States, which is all quite something. Now, we do not think, based on how it's being done, where it's like not a US federal court, it's like an FTC court or something, where it seems like it's going to result from at least what we would put money on if we were betting, then Microsoft will be legally bound to some sort of contract that maintains openness of games. Overall, I don't think Microsoft are going to be too furious about that because they're going to make a hell of a lot of money from Call of Duty anyway. So that's probably going to be good enough for them, and maybe they know in like 2 console generations time, maybe they could pull the big nasty in Call of Duty, but that's perhaps so far ahead that to them it's not even a major concern now because so many other things are going to change. The format in which we play games may change significantly. I mean, think about how we were playing games 20 years ago versus now. So a lot of those things will change. And I guess story-wise it's tricky because this acquisition has taken a lot of oxygen out of the room for the other stories where there's not really a massive amount, but there are lots of ongoing things. Game Pass, right? Keeps on getting better. They were pretty good at grabbing the zeitgeist by putting Vampire Survivors there, because it's not like Vampire Survivors saving people a lot of money by being in Game Pass with it being so cheap. That was clearly just Microsoft saying, oh, wait, Rising Tide, Vampire, get that.
Yeah, and I imagine they didn't need to give Pongo all that much money to get it there. Here's on Game Pass, and we'll, for people who want to exclusively use our platform, they'll see the game that everyone's talking about and click it, instead of leaving our platform to go to Steam to click it.
Yeah.
That's where the big wins are going to come from those really smart little decisions of, you don't have to leave the Xbox app to have the game that you want. That's the idea.
And then we have something in testing in Colombia and Ireland, which is a humongous value. Basically, Game Pass Family Pass, it costs $21.99 a month. It allows 5 people to share the same Game Pass subscription, and everyone can use it at the same time, unlike, say, a Netflix-like situation. And this is for Game Pass Ultimate, meaning it includes the streaming, Xbox, and PC. Now, that is a insane value. It's hard to overstate that. For a family, this makes complete sense. Many will say that this makes it an obvious option for families.
Yes. And for a lot of families.
Yes.
Who are very, very close and definitely live in the same house all the time, and use things like Spotify Family to get a nice within terms of service deal for you and your household. If people want to use it the same way, I'm sure they will, and that'll be the thing of, it'll get people into the service a little bit. Will it be like a pretty hefty discount for those who get around it? Yeah, but unless they do something and need to verify addresses or start going, why are your 5 IPs very different locations? Don't like that. But even then, that's the idea of a lot of people go, oh yeah. Yeah, me and my mates will have Game Pass Ultimate for £6 a pop. Absolutely. I mean, I'm actually, no. No, I'm not thinking about it. That would be immoral.
So you would want to do that.
No.
Then, of course, there's that they are considering an ad-supported
Yes.
version of Game Pass that would be cheaper, right? It would basically have a library of Xbox first-party published games, but that would be 6 months after release. You would get online multiplayer. It would be download only, so no streaming stuff, and ads would play when you launch a game on that service. And this would be... Yeah, apparently the streaming would be supported via ads at some point, but maybe not initially. So certainly not something to expect soon. Like, this is kind of overall maybe a bit earlier, especially the streaming thing. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get it. Ads are annoying. You know, kind of like I use YouTube Premium because I think, well, fair enough, it actually costs a lot of money to have video go out. People would be surprised. So it feels fair given how much I use the platform. A case like this, I'd rather just pay the money, but certainly, I mean, the idea of Series S and ad-supported tier, for a lot of people, that could end up working pretty damn well.
Yeah, it's about targeting the markets that are otherwise priced out of it. If you can find a way to get those people in, and that's a case of like, even now, because I think, well, it depends on what kind of games you're playing, right? Because if you go for like if you're priced out of the gaming market entirely to the point where a couple quid a month is too much, and buying a Series S or like, you know, buying a Series S like the most you could muster, even if you have to do it on like a plan like they do in the US, then that would be kind of
Was that the plan that's offered at GameStop?
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, like the monthly plan, whatever it is you pay for it in installments, like through an official supplier. So it's like there's maybe with like hardware being the way it is now, because I remember back when we were too young to actually have any money, and everyone was like, yep, we'll just pirate the shit out of games and play them on our family PC. There's maybe a little bit of where like hardware's getting to the point where you can maybe do that for indies, but I feel like that's a little bit out of vogue in a sense for a lot of people when you just go get the thing that's really cheap and go do that instead, and that'll just capture a market that clearly, as an example, Sony just aren't interested in that market largely. And it's like Nintendo kind of go well enough for that market, but they go for that through a reasonably priced console and also an obscene amount of like, hey, here's the one game you buy, or you'll maybe buy like 2 games this year, but they'll be massive games and they'll be like cultural touchstones.
Yeah, just play Splatoon 3 forever.
Yeah, go play Splatoon 3 forever, or get Breath of the Wild, and that's you for like 200 hours, which is probably more than you'll ever want. But for people who want like, I guess a wider variety of games who are kind of like, basically real super like hardcore gamers, but don't have the money available because they're whatever young, whatever. It's like that's a good marketing for basically.
Yeah, the other thing then is them giving up doing the whole like little sort of plug-in dongle thing in favor of just being pre-installed in smart TVs. Now that's the sort of thing where if this was going to be good for a market expansion strategy, then they would need to do that on smart TVs that are not like, an LG OLED. So we'll have to see with certainly with that. But for a lot of people, they could be in a situation where it's just, oh, my TV has the Xbox app. Sure, I'll do the streaming thing. Whatever. I have OK Fiber, right? So there's that. The other thing then, DRM removal, which, yes, there was a bit of a minor controversy. Some people were locked out of their games. The team at Xbox found a way to remove some of the more frustrating DRM elements on the Xbox platform. And that means that with Xbox One discs are no longer requiring online checks before they can be used, which is a minor change, but it's one that wasn't the largest outrage ever, but it was nice that they responded to it with a fix.
I always think that always is like the smallest things that change with the development team or with like a platform. They often have the biggest impact on me respecting them, because that's the thing of like, did that save them any money? No. Did that save them like much PR? Probably a little bit. But that was like no economic impact. But they had developers who were able to go and do that. They're able to, I guess, see the principle side of it and go, you're right, this is a bad user experience. We will update this to make it a better user experience. Or like, so you did things that were for us instead of for money? Yeah. Was that ultimately for money somehow? Or whatever way you want to phrase it. It's like, no, that's... The more devs and publishers do that, the more I'm like, yeah, you've got my respect for that.
Yeah. The other story, of course, has been the Series S and the impact that it's having on developers.
Yes.
Obviously, the weird Gotham Knights situation. Essentially, if you're coming out on Xbox, you cannot come out on only X. And for a lot of people, that is a problem. Because, I think basically in terms of raw horsepower, the Xbox One X was actually a little bit more powerful than the Series S. Now the Series S probably going to perform maybe better overall, at least what it's intended to do because of architecture improvements and that sort of thing. But unlike PlayStation, Xbox is tied back. Whenever they are, let's say, midway through the console life cycle or towards the end, because so far, the only Sony exclusive that hasn't been playable on the PS4, the only one that came out this year was Last of Us Part 1 Remastered. Yes. Obviously, Rift Apart could not be purchased on a PS4, but generally speaking, they have done things quite cross-platform, with a bit of drama to boot as well. But in this case, it's just flat out like a lot of developers are feeling kind of screwed. If they could only do PC and Series X, they'd be super happy. Instead, they maybe feel that Series S is just going to be this weight dragging them. This is an issue that's only going to expand, though, as time goes on. Yep. And that's going to be a big challenge. I have to wonder if we will see Microsoft relent, because the second they relent, then that they are no longer a big cohesive, we're all marching forward together strategy. Yeah, that's dramatic.
Yeah, I think it depends on how they want to spin this, because it's must be frustrating to have this great plan on paper and then to kind of fall apart a little bit. Because I think the PR loss of, say, if they don't relent and say, no, if you're publishing on our platform, be that us publishing our own games or be that third party, it has to be S compatible. If they say that and then someone with some sort of plan, I don't know, I don't think based on the market that would deter anyone. But all it takes is like a couple of publishers to go, okay, well, Sony are offering X much to be console exclusive anyway, and if we do that, then we get to really up how our game looks, up all the marketing stuff, especially when talking about visual stuff, because we all know head executives of publishing and stuff like that in marketing love to see this game will be beautiful, this game will be amazing, it's beautiful, it's incredible. The whole visual arms race that we hate violently, but you can see that having the impact of like, all it takes is someone to go, this is what the PS5 looks like. You can't get that on Xbox, and that's something that's like, that's going to happen anyway from Sony, but if that happens and like there's the direct comparison from a third party, that'll be like a big PR hit to them going, so you've just kneecapped your platform for the next 4, 5, 6 years. Oof.
And it's kind of interesting because it's like that. Okay, that was your short-term strategy to increase your market share because you're competing within the same console generation as Sony, but at a lower price range. Yet now they are losing to Sony, even though they've been pretty damn competitive in a broader range of prices. And I think this is something that could have been an issue for Perfect Dark, the quadruple A game. And this is where we get to one of their pretty obvious losses, actually. And that is that earlier in the year, VGC reported that the Initiative, which is Microsoft's quadruple A studio, who's going to be developing Perfect Dark, that they lost half of their staff in 12 months. And that per the LinkedIn profiles, the studio was down to only 50 people. These departures were lining up with the 2021 reveal that Crystal Dynamics actually would be co-developing whatever Perfect Dark alongside the Initiative. That was also with a raft of job listings. And according to VGC, there's basically little to no studio culture, so that's bad. Staff feeling demoralized, unable to participate in a collaborative culture of development, instead just following direction from leadership. And all this stuff's crazy to me. It makes me wonder, did they have all these good plans, and then COVID happens, then work from home happens, and they were not set up to be a remote company? They didn't do it right, they didn't develop a culture, and basically they're overall screwed. And this is combined with the general sentiment amongst the journalist sources that this coincided with a reboot of that quadruple A game. It's quite funny then, with the two quadruple A projects we know of, one from Ubisoft and of course this from Microsoft, both are going nowhere fast.
Yeah, and the fun part is you could maybe say, well, I mean, if they have this, they have the Initiative going forward and they have Crystal Dynamics involved. Crystal Dynamics have, Avengers aside, they have a pretty hefty weight behind them in terms of not maybe the recent Tomb Raider games sold loads or whatever else, but you can immediately
sold pretty well.
Yeah, they sold pretty well. Maybe not enough for Square Enix.
There's anything enough for them.
Not that that's possible. But I think you could go, okay, it's these two studios. Surely they'll be fine. They can get things out fast. It'll be good quality. Except Crystal Dynamics are also working on Tomb Raider under Amazon. So you can imagine that being their own deal. They're going to not that they won't put enough effort into this side of it, but more that this isn't a full studio's effort. This is like, okay, we've got some people from Crystal Dynamics, but the most of their force are working on Tomb Raider. So it's still just like, where's the Initiative and where's this game and why is no one mentioned? Are you ever going to just cancel it? Or is it going to be like a quiet, it's just never going to happen. Sorry about that. That's one of the things is like every time because I guess it's like, just not like quite like the sort of Damocles, but it is hanging over their head. And every time it's like, where's Fable? They go, Fables, it's being developed. Playground are having a great time on it. They're working away, they're making it, etc., 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 all the usual corporate fluff. And then the follow-up question is, where's Perfect Dark? And then, just have to stammer and go, next question, please.
We have initiative.
We took the initiative. What'd you do with them?
Yeah, so that's messy. We then also have maybe a dam being bust. So there was stories coming out about the QA department on Fallout 76. They had a really shitty time. Now, Xbox responded to this pretty quickly, kind of suggesting the big crunch problems are a thing of the past. But then, in December, we had a 300-person QA team at ZeniMax begin the process of unionizing, and this is a pretty landmark moment, at least for our industry in America, because that is in fact, the largest individual union in the industry, which is really big. What's interesting then is Microsoft, even though they don't have the most pro-union past, they generally said that, look, I think that thing of, we don't want you to do it, but you do have the legal right, so... they made some utterances there, and that's something that has a lot of us thinking, right then, will the really, really obvious union busting of Activision Blizzard, should the deal go through, which we think it will, just with some legally binding, asterisks, will those unions have an easier time forming? I would say probably, and that probably will be a good thing. Because I guess, hey, look, what's going to happen if the game is just fucked? Like, a game's really fucked. It's like, right, we can't even find the bugs fast enough to fix them by launch because... oh no, now our QA department has rights. I wonder if that could actually lead to less of an ability to just do hyper-aggressive crunch burning through human capital. Maybe it's like, if you can't do that, then you have no choice but to delay your game.
Yeah, that's...
Maybe I'm way too hopeful.
Yeah, that's the awkward thing where, like, you think, okay, well, theoretically, of course, a union and the QA people have more rights. The QA people have, more holidays, etc. Having all of the good things that make them happier and better people means they'll do a better job in the long run. But it's moving the incentives to the long term instead of the short term. So it is like that happening will have an impact, and probably an outsized one on them trying to get those things if they have those issues ready. Whereas obviously they might be burning through human capital at the Sony end in their games or anywhere else, but the public unionization's happening here, so they're going to be hit by like the transfer earlier. And even if the dam busts across the industry, Microsoft are built closer to the dam, or it's going to bust it like their side. Whatever water-based analogy you want to use, that is going to bust there and cause them the damage first, which I think will be certainly interesting to see, because I think everyone would be happy to have the whole thing unionized to hell and just go have great developers and QA people who are happy and doing their job properly, instead of, what was the Callisto Protocol example of the developer who accidentally patched
the wrong file or something,
patched the wrong file, so all the stuttering fixes existed but they weren't in the game, and they're like, oh, cool, but how'd that happen? And the answer is almost certainly because they were in a death march, and whoever did that was exhausted, likely. Yeah.
And that brings us to 2023. Right, what's coming? And also, we have a handy list of everything that they are committed to publishing, but that does not have a date. So, in terms of games, we are getting Age of Empires 2's console port in January. Age of Empires 4 is apparently getting the same at some point. We have Ara, History Untold, a Civilization-style strategy game from Oxide Studios that we should be expecting either Q1 or Q2. All right, pretty good. We've got Forza Motorsports, which should be appearing during that release window as well. Also, we've got the action strategy game, Minecraft Legends.
It's printing money for sure.
Yeah, hey, sometimes those like Minecraft spin-offs are actually, that maybe they won't be completely revolutionary, but they actually end up being solid things that people enjoy. So fair play. Yep. Then, for a funny little riddle, we know that both Redfall and Starfall have been delayed until the first half of 2023, but we won't be seeing Starfield until after Redfall. So there you go. So I don't know, maybe we see Redfall in April and June Starfield.
I don't know what it is about large video game releases, but June Starfield to me just goes, that's definitely it. But it could be, because I know March...
As Diablo just made June seem like more cool to you? It is our birthday, pretty cool month.
FF16 is also in June, so June is like really brutal.
Oh, I have
something else as well.
I'm not going to be able to relax on my birthday because there'll just be video games everywhere, and there'll probably be a WoW patch
likely around that time.
We're going to have a great birthday period. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It'll be like Redfall will be. I think April's a pretty good guess, because if they have the ability to not launch in March, they'll probably go with it, because March is pretty stacked because everyone's just delayed everything into March. So I guess I'll hit April and then maybe May, because I think they wouldn't be too worried about those games overlapping. I think they'd be quite happy with hey, bam, here's a load of cool stuff from Xbox all at once. But it depends if are they like, theoretically, they'll also be Activision Blizzard at the time. So do they want Starfield to launch at Diablo 6? Because there's probably a lot. Diablo 6? That's wow. That's far away. Diablo 4, I think there might be a little bit more overlap there. So I imagine they kind of go, hey, here's a month or two to play Starfield. Almost said Starfall. Starfield and then Diablo.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Then, of course, March will bring Halo Infinite Season 3, which is pitched as the start of the game's new era. And actually, the team is already ahead of schedule on delivering some things, because there are some planned Season 3 features that have actually made it into the winter update. Excellent. So you could almost see that as a relaunch of Halo Infinite. I really hope that Microsoft choose... Okay, I hope that if they know they can follow through, that they choose to say, hey, everyone, now is actually when you should give it a shot. We're sorry. This is all subject to delays. And that's all the first half of 2023. Now, there are rumors of there being an Xbox showcase in Q1. If so, then it would be interesting, because they do have some third-party console exclusive rights. Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Ark 2, and many other indies. So there could be quite a lot there. Of course, they'll also be securing many things for Game Pass. But then again, Sony now is able to do that, in their 2023, so it's not like that's a particularly new thing. But then we've got to talk on, their upcoming games that are in production but don't have a release date. And this is honestly where Microsoft actually starts to look strong. Because I think where you look at Sony and you think, right, we've got Insomniac coming in with the gameplay, and the rest is trying to make brilliant movie games, or something along those lines. If I was to be reductive and a bit of an asshole about it, you do look at this for Microsoft and think, bloody hell, there's quite a lot of potentially good things there.
It may not be as good, technically good, TM, but it is a little bit, at least to me, more interesting. Yeah. Not in like a personally interesting sense, because I don't really care about like basically half of these, but generally it's like there's at least a couple things there for me. And also, if I'm looking at this from like a meta perspective of the industry, this is way better. So, Age of Mythology retold. Hey, Age of Mythology, I mean, that is more niche. That's a spin-off of Age of Empires. I really enjoyed Age of Mythology playing on a shitty old laptop with a trackpad, so I'd be excited in that. Age of Empires Mobile, all I will say is, I'll be interested to see how that comes out. We have Avowed. We have Everwild, which... I don't think that was a game announcement from Rare. I think that was a concept and vibe announcement. Which, hey, it was a nice vibe and seemingly a cool concept. I don't even know if they knew what the game looked like at that point, but that'll exist. And given that Rare are coming off the back of Sea of Thieves, we know they can make some pretty damn good shit. We know that their games have got a pretty damn crispy, beautiful art style. So, good. Yeah, they can, and not even just make the games good, they can keep the games being good by actually putting content in them, which... If you're looking at how most of the industry functions, unfortunately, because I think we're a lot of us, and I assume viewers are very much like, can I have the game that's done and then I can play it and go play another game? But for a lot of how the industry unfolds, that ability to go, here's game, and here's more game, and more game, and more game, you can play this forever. That just works for people now. Yeah, Contraband. We've got Fable. I don't think that'll be 2023. I don't think so either. We have Perfect Dark. I definitely don't think that'll be 2023. I don't think it's ever happening. Project Mara. I definitely don't think that'll be 2023. Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 2. I think that'll be 2023. I think that'll be Q3. Yeah, that's my suspicion. State of Decay 3. I think that also could be 2023. Outer Worlds 2. I could see that being 23. I could also see it being 24. It just depends on how big that studio is at this point, because that's a lot of content. They have something with Kojima Productions. And they have something with Compulsion Games. Yeah, that's interesting, because something with Kojima Productions implies that either, because I can't, well, it's weird, because Kojima very much seems to be he'll just do whatever he wants himself. But it's like, is he under Kojima Productions? Has he got someone to make other games? Or if this went, Kojima, we need your name in a game, can you make Death Stranding 2 and also this, please? That'll be interesting to see if there's like a kind of, what's the next thing? What's the next interesting thing that's like a smaller project from you? Can you do that instead? That'd be fun to find out. Yeah. So overall then, as we try to wrap this up, it's hard to wrap it up for Microsoft, because there's honestly not a lot. There's not a massive amount. There's no way in which you could say they're the worst publisher of the year, because their main crime has been delaying games so that they're good, with the reason why they're doing that being the noticeable dumpster fire. But I think there's not been outwardly scummy things like the Horizon price thingy where they try to railroad people into buying the wrong edition of a game.
Like, well, you know what Sony did. There's been no big ABK style dramas. They've broadly been quite consumer friendly. They have broadly, I think, understood their first party weakness and therefore have offered a pretty damn good deal with Game Pass. So it's almost like by virtue of a low number of crimes and seemingly plenty of games being delayed for good reason, I actually think that they get to be pretty high up the bunch. Which is weird to say that one of the better publishers in this year has been a publisher that hasn't actually launched that many games. Pretty weird. But, I mean, look at Ubisoft. They haven't launched many games, and they've also been Ubisoft. Imagine that. Heck, that's a lot worse. I can't beat them up too much, to be honest. That's what's weird. Now, I could rant a little bit about some Windows 11 things and them trying to advertise things in Windows 11, but it's kind of like beyond the scope of today. So it's tricky. Comparing them to Sony is so bizarre because if you're thinking about purely the games, like Sony absolutely undoubtedly wins. When you think about being as drama free as is possible, I think in a way Microsoft wins because it seems like they've just wanted to fly low given the humongous scrutiny of the lawsuit. So it's weird comparing them to Sony. They both win and lose in different strengths. Sony's been like more willing to piss people off, but Sony has also undeniably had the quality product that Microsoft has not.
Yeah, I think for the broader audience, Sony are allowed to be really bullish, whereas for Xbox, I think I would maybe like qualify it as being like they're ultimately harmless, which is actually a very good thing for a publisher compared to all of the rest of them. But it's more like they're kind of on the quiet grind, which I think for people expecting stuff and people who bought into the platform early is going to be a disappointment. So I feel like if you're expecting Xbox to come out and you're like, maybe if you think back like, okay, what did I play on Xbox in 2022? Unless, of course, you're on Game Pass where they get a pretty big win for free. Well, not for free, literally for hundreds of millions of dollars, but for free in terms of their own development resources on games. Then you'll probably be happy enough. But if you wanted in the old console wars tradition, if you wanted a big game to beat your opponent over the head with, you're like, oh, my game's cooler than yours, loser. If you kind of want, not quite literally, but you want the same feel of, oh, this is the must-have experience that I bought an Xbox for. This is the thing that sticks out in my memory for this year. You're just going to be disappointed. And that's a pretty weak sauce crime compared to anything else, I think. It's just about, will they be able to deliver that for that buyer next year? Or is that person going to, maybe not if for like the most diehard Xbox fanboy, because Clubril, the Xbox Twitter user, is going to have his day where he gets to, or maybe it's she, gets to have the time of their life and say, look at all these amazing games Xbox have finally published. Yeah. As opposed to just, please be excited for these studios. There'll be a day that'll come, but it's like, can they get that day to come before people go, I'm going to trade in my Series X for PS5 because they have games that actually are the next gen games that I want in my life to remember and think about. I think that's basically their ultimate problem. Everywhere else are kind of making they're making the groundwork there for a decent win. Most cases.
I think where I'm left is I find myself with a more favorable disposition towards how Xbox is being ran. But given the goal of this series, and given what will ultimately matter for people who are playing games, because who knows, maybe circumstances change, you won't be playing, whatever. It's like the here and now is what matters. Yeah. PlayStation has got to win out over Microsoft, even though I do think that Microsoft are in some ways a bit more likable. And I know that might sound a bit insane, and I know a lot of people are very much like, my anime games are being censored, and there's all that stuff and that sucks, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that will stand up to God of War Ragnarok. And they've had more PC releases as well. That's the other thing. All these PC releases from Sony that have been big wins for the PC gamers too. So all of that just has me thinking, Sony, they're coming in, they are willing to rustle people up, but at the end of the day, they have the goods. That means that Microsoft has just got to do the quiet grind to win later, but it kind of does mean they can't win right now because the games aren't there. Yeah,
I mean, I guess the easiest way to explain my perspective is through my behavior, because that's how people always are. The behavior reveals the truth of it. And
were you playing Modern Warfare 2 on boycott night?
No. I probably was actually. But I was
button console.
Yeah. But I think it's more that many times this year I've resubbed to Game Pass for a month to play a specific game, like Metal Hellsinger was one of those examples. That was great. But then I didn't renew. I've had PS Plus run the whole year. And this is like, I spend more time on my PC playing games than I do the PS5. But ultimately, I've had PS Plus for more because it's had a better selection of games that I'm interested in. And also all of the first party stuff. And even then, it's like, this is one of the weird things that we'll probably talk about at some point. But PC gaming's enough of a risk at sometimes. Especially if you're into certain games. Like, I got Elden Ring on the PS5 this year. And that was a lot of my playtime on the PS5. That was a lot of my time on the store. And that's because the PS5 is a really good console.
Yeah,
that's because the user experience of that is great. PlayStation Game Pass. Yeah, PS Plus, the new revamped version of the game catalog is really compelling, and I don't think, even as someone who spends more time on PC, not that I would play like the Sony first party games there because I get them earlier on PS5 when they're out. Not that I've played Ragnarok yet due to time, but it's like that my behavior speaks, and it's like even as a PC first gamer, Microsoft or Xbox don't have anything I actually want to play, so buying PC and PS5.
Ultimately for work, I own both consoles, and the console that is in the flat that all of my time is spent in is a PlayStation 5.
Yep, that tells the story itself. Like
done. Yeah. So Sony, you may piss us off, but you do get the win this time around. Microsoft, though, they don't get some sort of loss where it's like, oh, you're terrible. You've done, uber bad. It's, come on, fix Halo. And also, okay, maybe you've learned your lesson. We'll need to wait and see.
It's interesting because for all of the years of console wars historically, this is maybe one of the first times we've actually had to go, no, this is literally apples and oranges in a crazy way. It's really hard to compare these because they're playing different games.
Absolutely.
And we highlighted that before when we saw these plans unfurl over the last year and the year before. But now we're seeing them, like we've seen like the result of those plans and go, oh yeah, these two are playing different games. They'll have to meet sometime, but it's like, it's that idea of, I guess, imagine like a StarCraft 2 game. Someone's playing one form of macro with one form of timing, the other's playing a different form of timing. And it's like, well, obviously a couple of rounds of how that goes. We'll have to see.
Well, and if Activision Blizzard is acquired and StarCraft 3 exists, I guess consider me bought off. Consider me bribed. I'll be that. I'll be powerless but to do anything else. Okay, join us next time on our enduring quest to find out who's fucked up the most and who gets the big award. Perhaps at the end we'll do a special episode putting together a tier list. That'll be a fun thing to put together. But till then, have a great day. See you next time.